You just fart, the most fairyish baby fart I've ever heard. It sounded like a creaking shoe.
You're so insane.
You are.
None of that was true, by the way.
Welcome back to the third dimension. My name is Bill Phosphorus. And this right here is my friend.
Cleary McClearshoe.
Wow! You heard it here first, folks. Clear McClearshoe and Bill Phosphorus.
Yeah.
Coming to you live.
Welcome back to the third dimension. Did you already say that?
I did, but you can say it again. You can never be welcome back, too much.
You can everybody welcome back. Gosh.
So, today
we were having a conversation about before we started filming 5 minutes ago.
About specifically before we started filming.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and we love you.
No, it was about UFOs. Or they were known as UFOs.
Wait, so why do they call it unidentified extraterrestrial? Because it's not. Wait,
no, it is. No, now you're confusing me when you start saying weird stuff. UAP is unidentified.
No, the A stands for something else. Because you said aerospace. It's not just in space. It's under the water now.
No, that's a different one. That's submerged. That's unidentified submerged phenomena.
No, yeah, but they're saying
it's
UAP.
Unidentified aerospace phenomena is the name of it.
Is it aerospace?
It is aerospace.
I thought they came with another term to like engulf everything.
No, it's.
Or this is specifically just about the things.
There's aerospace and
aeronautical. Subterranical. Homesick.
Under the water.
Homesick Terranium Blues.
Subterranean
Sorry,
blues.
Bob Dylan.
Uh-huh.
Real good.
So, not an alien. So anyway,
not an alien.
It's been building for a while. People have said that they've been abducted by, UFOs. People have said they've seen them, and it's been building and building. And then you've got fighter pilots that are like, we're seeing this stuff. They call it the Tic Tac incident is a big one.
Do you remember the Yesterday video that they did with one of the ladies? I forgot where she was from. I think it was like New York or something. Do you remember that one?
Nope.
With Amar and Stefan?
Nope.
Great video. Go check it out. It's Yes Theory. Just look up Yes Theory UFOs. Tell them we sent you. To all of our 6 viewers. Big audience. And yeah, it was really good. A lot of backstory.
Mm-hmm. So anyway,
it brings a lot of humanity into like the people that are abducted. Because if you're like people were abducted, you're like, yeah, bull crap, and you actually like get to listen to one of them.
Well, they're people. Anyway.
Well, yeah.
And everyone deserves respect.
Well, not the aliens.
No, the people are people.
So wait. Let me answer this question.
You're going to answer your own question? Please do.
Let me ask you this question. Do you believe in other life forms other than human beings?
Okay. Well, in order to answer that, I'm going to have to explain everything that I've just learned. So, the trial...
You just learned this just now?
Oh, today.
Okay.
And so there's a guy that's worked for the government. He's worked for more, under the radar U.S. agencies. And he was explaining the reason why there are so many classified documents containing the UAPs. It's not necessarily because they are, it's like, oh, we don't want you to know about them. There are some people in the government that still do not want that conversation to happen, but many people do.
Well, that's why it's coming to the surface
right,
now.
And it kind of has to because people are actually seeing these things. Fighter pilots are seeing these things. But the reason that they're classified is because, say, the U.S. government has, technology that they don't want our adversaries to know about. If we are in another country that we don't want that country knowing about, they're like, if we were to release those documents, they'd be like, hey, hold on, how did you get such a clear image in our country? How did the technology that the U.S. has? There's classified technology that's been used.
Finite.
Well,
it's man-made.
It's not about that. It's more like the classified technology the U.S. has been used to observe and document UAPs, and due to the classified nature of our technologies, that documentation cannot be released. Yeah, because it would put us like, hey, how are you doing that? How do you have that technology? How can you see that clearly? Yeah, because he was talking about how. There are much more clear videos, and there are biologics that have been collected actually from crashes and stuff, and
supposedly.
No, for sure, they have been collected.
Yeah, but there's
government government documentation.
Yeah, but have they shown the people?
Yes. Well, no, they haven't shown the people, but the government does have.
Yeah, so it makes it superficial as of now. Like I could tell you that I'm a rhinoceros. It's not true.
Okay,
Unless I show you evidence.
But
it's
listen,
superficial.
Listen, here's the deal, right? And this is why.
So you trust some general of the government that's like...
It's not that I trust him because the way he said...
the SNL thing was like, this is pretty much how it went. It's like, do you believe in aliens? No. Do you have biologics? Yes. Can you show us? No. That was the entire hearing. It's like,
Well,
I want you to believe us, but I'm not going to show you any evidence.
This is why he said that, right? Because that was a super condensed version of what he was talking about. He said, okay, 19th century, I believe, is what he was talking about. I only saw it once, so I didn't really get all the details right. So you have to go watch the video. I forget who it was with, but if you look up UAPs,
it was the one that was in court, right?
Yes, but he goes on several podcasts and he starts talking about what he's been.
I think he was also on Yes Series channel.
He might have
also did a video with him. Is he like the kind of bulkier general, like kind of shaved head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a little white beard thing going on.
Oh, different guy. He's kind of like
this is a different
chunky
guy. Yes.
Okay.
Different guy. He, really down to earth, because when he was asked the question, "Do you believe in aliens?" he said, "I don't know." He said, "UAPs are here.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we don't know what they are and we don't know why they're here.
Mm-hmm.
We have observed phenomenon that defies physics, things going from 80,000 feet down to 0 in less than a second. No inertia, no wind resistance. Nothing is affected. Dozens and dozens of sightings, dozens of radars have gone off. It's not just one way of detecting these things. It's been every single way we could possibly detect something being there has been detected, through people seeing it, through our radios, through our sonars and our radars, through every way that we can sort of measure these things. It's been there.
Yeah.
They're here. We just don't know why. And so it's the analogy he uses, like, do you lock your door before you go to bed?
Of course.
Okay.
Wait, like my personal door?
No, just the house door.
Oh.
Yes. No.
I lock the house door.
Yes. Okay. And sometimes people, if you're feeling a little extra cautious, you lock the windows, and it's not because you necessarily believe that something's going to happen. It's just because because you would. It's just you're better off.
Safe than sorry.
Right. So imagine you've locked everything. Everything's locked down. Everything's shut. You know it. Good. Garage door is closed. Garage door is like locked down. Then the house to the garage is locked. You wake up the next morning, and all of a sudden you see a pair of size 14 boot prints, muddy boot prints in your living room. Nothing's broken. Nothing's stolen, but there are boot prints on your floor. Everything is still locked. Nothing was damaged to get in, but there is a size 14 boot print on your ground.
Yeah.
Then it's a threat, but it would be better to figure out how they got in.
Yeah.
And why, because you don't know why. So there are other accounts actually in South America. I'm trying to remember which government it was. I think possibly the Brazilian government, but don't quote me on that. It was one of the South American governments. There was an attack, actually, of a UAP, and it wasn't just the villagers that saw it. It was multiple military personnel, also a 4-star general that saw the UAP, and there was an attack from these, whatever it was. They don't know if it was nobody knows what it is.
Yeah.
Nobody knows if there's something inside.
Did they like kind of provoke the UAP?
No.
Or it just came down
it had landed, right? And there was an attack, and they were sort of it sounded like there were injuries.
They just saw the UAP, not like biologics stepping out.
No, it was just the machine, whatever it is. I don't know if we don't know what it is.
Did it kill people?
It hurt people really bad. It was
how
more
did it
like
hurt them?
photonic sort of blast, so almost like a laser that it actually shot people with and burned them.
So kind of like the same thing in Hawaii, like the whole fire.
Sort of. And then you also have multiple people who are on medical that the U.S. is supporting medically due to injuries specifically around UAPs. They got too close to these things and they got hurt. Just like how it wasn't, we don't know if it was intentional or if it was just a byproduct of being too close to, like, if you're next to a jet engine, right, and you're standing behind it and it suddenly just turns on. It's not that it's intentional, but you're going to get hurt.
It's like 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, man.
So there were a couple of personnel in the UK that actually they got very hurt getting too close to one of these that had landed in the forest.
Did they have like actual scars to show for it?
Yes.
Okay.
They have not only scars, but like just like if you have a microwave, it's probably a good idea not to put your head inside of a microwave.
I mean, that's my favorite.
Yeah. So the thing that was happening was that the thing he kept saying is we don't know what they are. And there are when at the hearing he was like, it's classified, and the reason he's saying it's classified is because, again, a lot of the technologies that we're using to detect these things is classified technology. We don't want other people to know that we have it. We don't want our enemies, our adversaries, to know that we have the sort of technology that we can actually maybe take pictures of their country and what's actually happening very, very clearly. The other thing that happened that he talked about was when there was the sort of honeymoon phase between the U.S. and the USSR, or Russia. And during that time, ex-KGB officers were actually sharing UFO or UAP information with the U.S. government. One of them was that, and this is the scary part, not only our nuclear defenses, but ours were actually turned off by them. Theirs were turned on. That's a problem, and that's what he was talking about.
How do they get that information? That they're
the Russians, the ex-KGB officers shared that with the U.S. government. Yes,
UAP's nuclear weapons.
And also Japan has entered into an agreement with the U.S. to share information regarding UAPs, because I think the realization is these things have been happening to all the countries, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know why they're here. We don't know if it's one sort of thing. We don't know if it's just a sort of AI from another civilization. We don't know what it is.
What do you think?
I don't know, because obviously
does it terrify you that you don't know?
No, I think it's interesting.
How do you think that our religious perspective ties into that?
Well, I think that's also another interesting thing.
Because I think, again, the Bible specifically talks about Jesus, God, creating humanity. That's the only life form, supposedly. Say that there is another life form, and we know that for a fact.
I mean, what consequences would that have?
What kind of conclusion do you come to? I mean, I think that in a sense is kind of putting God in a box.
Well, let me ask you this, right?
Again, if you would have said if there's something in the Bible, I don't know if you can recount to this, but if there's something in the Bible, it's I've created humanity for the earth, but the universe is infinite.
Yeah.
Did he ever explicitly say
I think
not any other life than human life?
The estimated size of the universe is around 27 billion light years across.
As much as we've been able to calculate.
Yeah. And the thing is
well, that's what I'm saying. Do you think that there is a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely, sure. And here's the thing, though, right?
But what would that do to your perspective of?
Here's the deal, right? So this is how I think about it. What would happen if you went to a guy 4,000 years ago and you showed him the technology we have today? He would think you're a god, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that same vein, or he would think that you're weird, like, oh my god, like what's going on?
Yeah.
In that same vein, I think that what was written in the Bible was written towards a people that were in that time, and so it has persevered to where we are now, and so we don't think any differently about the realness of our faith now versus the people back then did. Even though that technology we have now today, the people back then, it might cause them to lose their faith because they're like, wow, what is all this stuff? This is like the power of gods.
Yeah.
But to us, it's like, no, it's not. We understand it. And so just because technology like that can exist, or other civilizations can exist, that has nothing to do with the things that exist outside of the universe or the things that might have created it. So that would not change anything from that point of view. I think that the questions that you have to ask at that point is, okay, has there been contact and communication between species? It's like, okay, well, it depends. If there's a form of contact like don't enter, like nonverbal communication, right? Like if I were to glare at you, you would know what that meant. I'm not saying anything, but you know what it means.
Well, I also think it's interesting that NASA and other space exploration corporations have, for pretty much for the past, I would say 70 years, sent things out into space.
It's funny that you say 70 years, because
that's saying that they recovered stuff.
No, that's how long they have been here. They've been coming back and forth, and how long these sightings have been going on.
Yeah, it's
70 years. 70 years.
Yeah, exactly. So literally for about 70 years, since about the space race, they started sending probes out into space, literally with encrypted messages, are there civilizations? We've never gotten a response. So what do you think about that? The fact that we've never gotten a response from almost 70 years.
Well, here's the deal.
Of sending out
that
messages.
Probe that was sent out has barely exited our solar system. That's tiny.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the other
and even radio waves, the radio waves that we've sent out, right? Those are not that far. That doesn't even go at it goes nowhere near the speed of light, which to get to one side of the universe to there, 13 or 27 billion light years. for light to get from one side to the other. So just because one of our probes that's gone the farthest has barely even exited our solar system, the speed that those things are traveling at, physics does not work. The laws of physics have been broken by them. There's no...
No, I've seen the videos.
Right.
Yeah.
The tic-tac, all of them. And so what you're dealing with, I think, at that point is... I don't think it's that we made... I think it's more or less of... If you see a civilization that's getting pretty close to reaching out into space, we are a much more violent species than maybe some others. We're not very nice to each other. And so if I was another race, I would maybe be a little, I would want to keep an eye on that species. And I would hope, my hope would be they, obviously would not want to put the kibosh on us. And the point of it is not fear at all. Definitely not.
No, yeah, I know.
It's more or less
I think the big thing with most people is what I've seen online most recently after the hearing happened is like people's like spiritual warfare. Like, say this thing does exist, like how does that play into? That's why I asked you the whole. Well,
because there is a lot of
like,
culture around.
Well, yeah, because they'd be terrified. It's like, oh, I believe in Jesus and we're humans, and then there's like aliens, and you're like, well,
what does that mean?
Yeah, is God real even?
Well, that's what a lot of people think, right? And so it's like, okay, but you're thinking about it wrong because you've been in this little bubble. If you were to take a biblical take on it, God is called the Holy of Holies, which is he's the most different being. That's sort of what it means. Holy is set apart and different. He is the most different. So the alien would be more like us than technically God would be, because he is the most different being out there. He's the most set apart being. So that doesn't bother me. It doesn't change my ethics or my morals. I think it is more, the question that then is raised for me is like, well, how would humans interact, or would they even want to interact with another species? How would that go? And judging by the technology, I think it's more of a thing of, if you see, us to them would be more like, okay, we see a wildebeest out, we hit it with a tranq dart, draw some blood, take some samples, set it down in the grass, let it wake up, it's groggy, it goes over, it's like, man, you would not believe what happened to me.
And everybody's like, yeah, you're crazy, man.
Yeah.
You're full of
It's
crap.
like these people, this whole thing flew down, and propellers, and they had this thing they jammed into me, and oh my gosh, and now my butt hurts.
I mean, that's happened.
Right, well, we do it to animals on Earth.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to hurt them or anything, we're just trying to understand them.
Yeah.
So, I think it's there's a lot we don't know. And the other thing he brought up was that we don't know if there actually are from outer space. Yeah, we assume. Well, the
funny thing, I saw a really funny thing on TikTok, and he was like, "Yeah, no kidding." Like, well, because the whole thing, like the new, whatever it's called, discoveries that they are in the oceans, and this guy had made like a little skit online, and he was saying, or he was like, "Yeah, if there was an extraterrestrial being, and they're like, okay, we found a new planet, where are we gonna live?" He's like, "Yeah, so." There's 75% of this blue planet. It's all water, and then all the humans live on the 25% that are land. It's like, where do you want to go? And he's like, well, I don't know. Gee, let's go to the 75% of the planet that's water, and let's just not mess with them. So, I mean, that makes a lot more sense than, you know what I mean? Like, we inhabit a very small portion. And we're like, hey, there's this big blue ball. Let's go live on that, but let's live in the part that these creatures can't inhabit yet.
Right. Well, I think the other part of it is we also assume that they did not
coming to fruition. Pacific Rim. I want to be a freaking
Jaeger.
Yeah, that'd be so sick. Oh my gosh.
But what he was saying was that we don't know that they're actually not from Earth. We assume that we're the dominant life form on Earth.
Yeah, what if they are from Earth? But again, also.
What?
Yeah. No. What about the Bible? It's like, well, humans are the apex. Like that they were created in the image of God. So what if there's another life form? What are they created in the image of? And then my follow-up question is, since nobody knows what the end times are, what if the Antichrist is something that is not human, therefore extraterrestrial life?
Maybe. I think it's more of a thing of humans love stories, right? And the things we don't understand, we start telling ourselves a story about so we can try and understand it. So the way that I think about it is being okay with not knowing. We don't know what these things are. We don't know if there's any biologics actually even in them. They could be drones from another solar system. They could be drones from something else.
But you said that they had found biologics.
They had found biologics, but I think those are from other crash sites, because he also wouldn't say whether or not they were all the same or whether they were different. So what that also
from what
means,
I've seen, they look very different.
Well,
from different parts of the world. Like there's some that are UFO shaped, like a disc.
Right.
And there's some that are triangular, look like a Dorito, and then there's some that are like just a rectangle.
So at that point, then you're going to have to try and parse together. Okay, so.
And then that also asks the question, like, why Earth? Why not like any other planet in the solar system?
Because you have a violent race that has been reaching for the stars, that has atomic weapons. And you would want to keep an eye on a race like that.
Yeah. You should keep an eye on them. They should be scared.
Well, at this point...
I'll freaking probe their butt.
I wouldn't say that. The other thing is, like, he was also talking about how much of the universe we can't perceive, right? So we can't see infrared...
imperceivable.
Well, what I'm saying is we can't see a lot of the rays of light in the wavelengths. We can't see in the micro world, like, constantly, right? We don't even know the depths of our ocean, let alone space and all the different ways that you can...
Trench.
Oh, yeah, all the ways that you can sort of perceive reality, right?
Yeah.
We can't see, I think he put it at something like 95% of what reality is. And so it's like...
That's insane.
We live in such a narrow, like, view of the universe like, I think that if they were going to do something, they would have already done it. I also was thinking about
that's also my other thought. It's like if they've been here for 70 years and we've gotten
if they were
like, hey, they seem pretty nice. Have them over for dinner.
Well, the other thing is if we do have biologics from them, this is the problem.
They want them back.
If we found out,
it's like if somebody. Okay, so I don't want to interject, but if somebody close to you dies, you want to go get their body and give them a proper burial. If we have TJ's brother and he's from freaking Zorbadorg.
Why did you laugh like a crazy person?
and we have like a biologic from another species. Don't you think they want him back?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, as a species, you wouldn't, just from a pragmatic standpoint, if you have a violent species take
unless they don't have any ethics at all, then you're like, yeah, we can he's fine.
Well, no, this is what I was going to say. From a pragmatic standpoint, if you're worried about a violent species, you would not want them to study your biologics because you wouldn't want them to understand you.
Yeah, because then you would be...
Right, it would be a threat.
Yeah.
So...
But again, if we've had biologics for, like, numerous decades and...
Well, the other thing is,
supposedly,
we assume that creatures that are not us, that are extraterrestrial, we assume that they would think like us. We assume this because we anthropomorphize everything. We see things through a human lens. And so the thing is that they would not be us. They would be very different. They wouldn't think like us. They wouldn't act like us. Like, we don't know. And so if we took their biologics, maybe they have a different way of doing things. Maybe it's like, we don't know. We really don't know. And so there was a lot of people for many years in the government that did not want this to happen, didn't want the conversation to happen.
Yeah, because I think it's I don't think it's terrifying. Well,
I think it can be very
the most thing with
rattling.
humans is like us not knowing things is terrifying to humans.
Well, because then
we want to know everything.
Well, we want to know because do you know what's rattling inside your brain right now when I mention UAPs, extraterrestrials,
survival,
biologics? No, every single horror sci-fi movie that's ever existed
pretty
ever.
Much.
Alien, Predator.
Hey, but the humans always freaking win.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Then you think about, oh, they're gonna freaking stick their tubes in my mouth and lay babies in my stomach.
Yeah, but I'll be like, yo, I want to get to know you. I don't want you to start.
But here's the deal, right?
Me.
Every single adaptation of aliens, that they are stronger than us, they're smarter than us, they're more ruthless than us, and we just get friggin' stomped in the dirt, and there is nothing we can do about it. There's just chaos, the world burns. That is the image that we have.
What if it just gets better?
Well, what I'm saying is, what if they just don't care that much to get that involved?
Yeah.
And two, it's just more like if I was trying to keep a civilization from becoming a violent civilization, from reaching out the stars, I would probably try and influence like the way that who they were putting in power, and the way they were going about their technology. I would influence that because at that point, it's like I don't have to reveal myself to them. I don't have to spend my
kind of like
resources.
Oz from The Wizard of Oz.
No, it's more like they don't have to know all the stuff about us. I can send a probe down there. I can influence their people.
Another good question. Very theoretical. Since it's unknown, and we've already gone through either it's another being that God has created, or it's like the Antichrist, the thing that's supposed to not destroy humanity, but bring about of what if it is God?
The UAP?
UAPs, because we don't know, you know what I mean?
So you're suggesting that,
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just like, what if?
which is a suggestion.
Yes.
You're suggesting what if human civilization was created out of extraterrestrial experiment on Earth?
No, not experiment. I'm just saying, what if God is what if he is the thing that is controlling the UAPs?
Well, God is sovereign. That's
Yeah.
part of the.
Well, it's just food for thought, man.
That's part of the
don't know.
Christian dogma is that God is sovereign. Therefore, there is not one atom that moves that's outside of His judgment, outside of His yes or no. This can happen.
Mhm.
I'll allow this.
Yeah.
So that's the other part of it. I think that it's. And maybe some of this stuff is easier for me to stomach because, like me growing up watching Doctor Who, right, which is a sci-fi
He's a
show.
cool guy.
He's a cool guy.
He can dress real well.
He does. He dealt with alien or extraterrestrials, non-Earth beings that were good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were great. Some of them were not.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them helped. Some of them didn't. Some of them were just like, we're not going to bother you. You're not going to bother us. And so he was more curious than anything. He didn't jump the gun and be like, it's bad. It's all over. He was more like, he would ask like, what are you doing here? Why are you curious in the Earth?
Mhm.
Or, he was curious. And I think that is the proper way to go about it. It's like, okay.
Yeah, let's not bomb him. Let's ask him some questions.
Well, yeah, the
And
other thing is
also-
it was a national security risk because nobody knew. Again, it was the boots thing.
Mm-hmm.
All of our doors were locked. All of our windows were locked. And yet there's a muddy footprints that are from size 14 boots.
Yeah.
And we don't know how they got there.
Yeah.
Especially when
stuff.
they turn on and off our nuclear capabilities.
Yeah, that's also
That's kind of really bad.
Well, that just makes us. I mean, what is a gun going to do? Nothing.
It doesn't do anything because they tried.
Yeah, I know.
They tried to shoot those things and it didn't work. So.
Oh, what was I going to ask? Oh, you were talking about like science fiction and like the stuff that humans have created in the image of like extraterrestrial life. What if you think they studied those, and then they watched Men in Black, and they're like, hey, they want to be cool with us, and they learn through the things that we've put out in society.
They could.
That'd be kind of cool.
Well, if
I would wanna
they
be
have
like
that much technology,
Black.
you would think that their philosophy on existence would be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a little more advanced.
Yep.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Because again, the way humans are is very specific and tailored to where we live and how we are as a species. They would be very different. So that's why I think that it's not as simple as humans want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a black and white thing. It's
Yeah.
more like we don't know what they are. We don't know why they're here. We know that they are here, and we don't know what they are. Like we don't know if they're from outer space. We don't know if they're actually even from this planet. We didn't even know that fungus was another type of life form until
Like a couple of years ago. Not a couple, a while.
not that long ago.
Yeah, but in retrospect, not that long. Yeah.
Not that long ago.
What was it, in like 1960?
I don't know exactly when it was learned and classified, but it was within, I think, the last 100, 200 years that we learned actually
Oh, I'm
that,
way off. Okay, that's good.
that it was...
Yeah, cordyceps too. Hey, honestly, I would much rather that happen. Cordyceps evolve, and then like The Last of Us, as opposed to extraterrestrial flying things. That
so what about
defy
it scares
physics.
you?
It doesn't scare me. It's just like
Well, I think it does. So I want you to be honest. What about it actually scares you? Like
there are certain minute details that scare me. It's the fact that we could be incredibly inferior. Therefore, it's like throwing eggs at a freaking tank. It just doesn't do anything. So like, what's the purpose? And then the other thing is, I think what you said. Like, I agree with what you said, but I think this is a big what if question for most people because this has been asked online. It's like, well, if these things exist, like, what about? Like, who am I in the universe? Is God real? Again, I'm not scared of those things. I'm just bringing up things I think that are good questions to ask. Yeah, I mean, literally, it makes you question everything.
well, it does, and I think it does because
And that's not what's terrifying. Well, I don't think that's terrifying. I just think it's a new perspective.
Well, again, I think
know what I mean?
you have
Like,
to learn and retrain.
We've always thought very black and white, like very linearly, and now it's like, well, now you've got to think like outside of those two things.
Well, again, we don't actually know if they are aliens. We don't know if they're extraterrestrial.
What if they're freaking? What if they are government things? That'd be kind of cool though. But I don't know how humans would survive. Like you.
Well,
would
the other
just-
thing is that you'd have to realize that
grape.
for the past 70 years, there's been another country with hypersonic.
Do you think that's more terrifying? Because
That'd be real
we
bad.
are a more violent species.
If there was another country that had that sort of capability, that
Wakanda.
has gotten into Gandhi.
Wakanda.
Yeah, it's Wakanda.
Vibranium.
Yeah. If
You
there
know, I
was
would like to live in a world where there's like
a Wakanda.
Captain America and I don't know about Thanos. He can go friggin' give himself a new beard because his freaking chin looks like a
Nutsack of a
ball
chin.
sack. Yeah. But actually, I don't want it. This is fine. It was great. I don't want extra stuff.
Well, and here's the other thing, right? And then I was thinking about this too. You know, whether they are there and whether they're not does not change what I want to do. It doesn't change who I care about. It doesn't change what they mean to me.
Yeah.
So going back to the show Arcane, I love that show.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask you about that, but this is a better subject, and I like it.
So, going back to that show, the themes in that show about family, about love, those things are still true, regardless of whatever the UAPs are.
Yeah.
Right. What you mean to me, and our dynamic, does not change because of whatever's going on with the UAPs. Right. Whether they are from outer space, whether they're from our Earth, whether they are some sort of, I don't know what they are, because the laws of physics do not work with those things. They don't work.
Supposedly.
No, not supposedly. They were seen. They were registered.
Yeah, but like
gravity doesn't. Anti-gravity stuff.
Is it for you? Is it like I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing, or you just believe it because of the overwhelming evidence?
It's more like it's not a belief or unbelief thing. It's more like I'm indifferent to their existence because if they do exist.
Well, no, I mean
because
I throw a lot of speculation around it because I don't necessarily believe it. However, if these things came down and like picked me up, and I'm like, well, I can't really deny it now. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that people who have gotten close to these things have gotten really hurt.
Yeah, I know. But again, like,
here's the thing: there's government documentation of them being on our government's.
It also begs the question: how much do you trust the governments? Because I really don't.
Well, the government didn't want anyone to know about it. John McCain forced their hand to actually release one of the fighter pilots, I think, his medical records regarding this stuff. The U.S. government has not wanted to admit to any of this. In fact, there are still people in the Pentagon that they don't want this conversation to be had. And I think a lot of it is because, it's like you don't know how people are going to react. You don't know how other countries are going to react. You don't there's a whole, you're opening Pandora's box with this stuff. And a lot of people are like, it doesn't exist because we don't want it to exist because it doesn't agree with how we want reality to be. Well, it's like, I think that's because your reality is so intertwined with things being a certain way. But if you understand, let's take Christian principles and how you view God. If you take how God is, the fact that he is beyond knowledge, right? He's beyond our understanding. Then even if the UAPs are extraterrestrials, it wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're like, okay, if they exist, that means that God's not real. But it's like, okay, but then that means that you thought that you understood the entirety of how God operates.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
how
when God talked to Job, he said, "Were you there when I set the foundations of the earth? Were you there?"
Well, he did talk about monsters and
So it's more like,
that's what I mean.
Does your allegiance to what it is to be human, does your allegiance to legacy, does your allegiance to something more change because there are new players in the game? And my argument is no, because it doesn't change the kind of love I have for people. It doesn't change what drives me. It doesn't change what motivates me. I don't have to get involved with the UAPs. I don't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
But
wouldn't you want to?
I think no, because it's like
not get involed, but aren't you
the thing is,
a little bit curious?
I'm curious, but here's the deal, right?
Like you want other people to deal with that kind of thing?
Well, it's just like I care about my own people. Yeah. And that's where I'm like I have a duty to them. I have a duty to
What if it's like a freaking Avatar thing?
They never got out of their solar system. Out of their world. They were primitive.
Pandora?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. What if we are the...
Well, they would have harvested our forests and our oceans already.
What did you look at?
The forests.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought the conversation was interesting. And I noticed that it sort of it's rattled you a little bit. it's okay if it has.
Well, yeah, I'm not denying that. I think that thought rattles anybody.
Well, when I was, because before, when you listen to people who are doing this stuff and saying these things, like, yeah, it's kind of just out there.
Yeah, but it gets real serious once everybody's like, hey, we kind of.
Well, now Congress is involved, and they're like, hey, we kind of need to actually start acknowledging.
Also, and then the other theory, because again, all of this is unknown, so technically it's all going to be speculation until something's like concrete. But also that makes you wonder, what if this is all just some crazy governmental thing to so we can focus on something else because something bigger is happening. Like, what if all these things have happened? Like, in some insane scenario where fighter pilots are like some, the general walks up and they're like, hey, you want to be part of like an experiment? Like, you might or might not get hurt, and then they get hurt, and they're like, okay, you have to say this was like extraterrestrial life, like them knowing very well.
Well, that's the extraterrestrial scapegoat card.
So what if that is a thing? Like, what if they're dictating what we see, and they're kind of forcing our eyes on something else?
I think the problem with that is that it's not hearsay. It's not like the government is telling you things that they saw. These are people that are also civilians that have seen the same things alongside military personnel. Mm-hmm. These are people in villages that have seen the same things. These are people on different sides of the planet in different countries that are having the exact same stories about things that have happened to them and damages that have happened to them. These are people getting hurt, going close to objects they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
These are video evidences of these things actually existing. These are people in commercial flights taking videos of these same exact phenomena happening and not knowing what it is. Mm-hmm. And so you have all these stories that are not just military people. These are all people from different countries, people from different governments, people from different ways of being, people from different thought processes, recording and recounting these same exact events. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it becomes more than this is a cover-up. At that point, there's something here, but we don't know what it is, and we don't know why it's here.
Yeah.
And it might be wise to try and figure it out, because
I think so.
We got a size 14 pair of boots in our house, and we locked the doors.
Yeah.
So let's maybe figure it out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if we're basing this entire conversation off of that metaphor alone, wouldn't you be a little scared? Well, not scared, but just like...
Obviously you're unnerved because you locked your doors for a reason.
Well, exactly. That's why I'm asking you. Like, you kept, like, bouncing off the fact that, like, hey, well, you got a little rattled. Like, aren't you a little rattled?
It's the difference between a national security issue and a national security threat. It would be a threat if our stuff was stolen.
Yeah.
And if we had damages to our house.
Yeah, it's just an issue. Like, we're just...
Right now it's just an issue because they got in and we don't know how.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Like, are you a little rattled? Not that it has to be negative or you're terrified. It's just like, aren't you? Isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
It's different. It's not human, or
supposedly
we don't know what it is, and that unknown is scary because our mind goes to the darkest places because we have a negativity bias. It's like I better think of the worst case scenario so I can try and protect myself from whatever this is.
Yep.
Mentally.
Yep.
And so for some people that means, well, I have to automatically assume that God doesn't exist and I have to throw all this stuff out the window because that's why I'm going to protect myself psychologically in case this is the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that
So what I say in rebuttal is just live your life, and if you get probed by Jimmy, then you can start freaking out.
Don't get Jimmy probed.
Until then, you're fine.
So, also, bouncing off of that, because I brought up Arcane.
Oh my God, this is a whole nother podcast.
I have gotten you on the train of Arcane.
You
the
have.
Arcane train.
And we're going to discuss that in the next episode.
We're going to discuss that in the next episode.
Because that is a whole other episode. I was thinking about it halfway through, and I was like, you know what? I think we need to watch the entirety of Arcane. So this will be next episode.
Wow.
Right.
Anyway, the video of the guy who did this, we'll put it in the description because it was a very good interview with this guy.
Yeah, it was the actual hearing, right?
Or no, this was not the hearing. This was a podcast with the man. No, this wasn't Joe Rogan. This is a podcast with the man, Joe Rogan, who was talking at the hearing. And it was, yes, a lot of the stuff was classified, but it wasn't like this sort of nonsensical, it's classified. It was more like the technology we use to record this stuff is classified, and we cannot have it out in the open because the U.S. has technology we don't want other people to know about as far as how we recorded these things.
Oh, yeah.
So we can't show it. They have much more clear footage of these things.
Than any other country, continent,
than
government.
Most other things, yeah. Scarily, sharp images.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, about talking about biologics, he can't really comment on the biologics they have, just that things have been recovered. And I think the reasons that he gave were valid. Like, it's not like he doesn't want to talk about these things. It's just that there are repercussions to talk about these things.
Yeah, I feel
there's a lot of he was talking about. Well, the other thing he was talking about how many steps you have to go through to get something declassified. is insane.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like trying
sure.
to birth an elephant. That's the thing that's how he put it.
Well,
it's like
yeah,
trying
it's
to birth an
kinda
elephant,
well,
trying
and then also begs the question is like how severe of an issue is it for it to get classified in the first place?
Well, for one, the technology they're using to like record these things. The
Well,
other
yeah,
part
like,
is
they don't
like,
want-
well, the other part is that other countries have been affected.
Yeah.
The other part of it is that our nuclear weapons have been affected by these things.
Mm-hmm.
They've been turned on by them, and
Yeah.
they've been turned off. So like, there's a
Screw
lot of
that.
national security that kind of goes into those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there's a lot of classification. And I think
Yeah.
people might not understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll put the video in the description, and you can decide for yourself whether or not what he's saying is mumbo jumbo or not.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think
And
that
keep going.
the way he put it, he wasn't really doing it for glitz and glamour. It was more just like, hey, this is what I've seen. I've been in the military for all these years. I have seen these things. I have known other people who have seen these things. There's
Mhm.
documentation of these things, not only from our government, from other governments, and from other people who are just civilians in other countries, seeing the same things, recording the same things. Therefore, like, and he was asked the question, do you think before you saw these things, before the documentation was there, do you think that you would have believed in extraterrestrial life or that there would be UAPs? And he said, probably not, no. I would just say, yeah. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to err on the side of probably not.
Yeah.
And they're like, what about now? He's like, oh, it's not a question of if, it's just what are they?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know what they are.
Mm.
So,
It's a good way to end an episode.
yeah. Later on the Manjays.
That's a grim way to end an episode.
I don't think it's great.
We're all gonna die.
No,
blah
we're
blah
not.
blah.
Don't
I'm
listen.
kidding.
It's
No,
not
I'm
the end of the
kidding.
world. It's just-
Anyways, yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more of our content. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.